At the age of 21, being male and the second child in a family of 5 children, I was different from my siblings. I was the only one born without physical or mental disabilities. My siblings, all of them without exception, need constant care and support. Independence is unattainable for them, with varying degrees of physical challenges. My existence in the family seemed invisible in terms of attention and care. Nothing but independence was required of me, even if it meant giving up many opportunities. My parents attributed this to a lack of financial resources or claimed that I didn't need certain things in life. Nevertheless, I found support in the form of friends. At that time, I had sincere friendships. My friends' parents would sometimes offer to pay for my trips to excursions, amusement parks, or weekend trips. However, my parents refused their offers each time, claiming that I should not accept help from others. When I tried to object and accept the offered help, my parents angrily reminded me of my status as their child, asserting their right to forbid me from doing anything. This was especially pronounced when my best friend's family offered to let me join them in Christmas shopping in another city. My parents' reaction to this offer was extremely negative, causing me to resent them. I feel that my parents denied me opportunities that they themselves never had. Their logic was that if no one in the family has had this kind of experience, then I shouldn't have it either. Additionally, I was not allowed to look for a job because I was needed at home. My help was required either in caring for my siblings or doing household chores. Occasionally, a nurse would come to help, but her intervention was limited to helping my parents only. If she tried to help me, my parents terminated her involvement. That all changed when I turned 18 years old. The world was still recovering from the global turmoil then, but I decided to make a change and got a job in retail. Later, I was lucky enough to find a place that was willing to invest time and resources in me for training, which gave me the chance to advance my career. This became a major life changer for me. Over time, I started earning more, which allowed me to afford some joys. For my 21st birthday, I bought a PlayStation 5 and also arranged some budget vacations with friends. I strived to make up for lost time and eventually even purchased my own car. My parents found out about my life through friends seeing me on social media. Their reaction was far from happy. They expressed their displeasure, claiming that I had completely forgotten about my family, preoccupied only with my own pleasures. "You treat yourself like a king," were my mom's words, which became a direct accusation. They believed that I should have devoted all my resources and time to helping my family, giving them a chance to rest, given that their lives consisted entirely of working and caring for my siblings without the possibility of a break. In their opinion, my behavior was the result of unspoken childhood resentment, which they said was unfair of me, given that they were trying their best under the most difficult of circumstances, which I supposedly could never fully understand. You're not an idiot. You have every right to decide how to manage your life and your money. Family support is important, but that doesn't mean having to sacrifice your own interests for others. If parents have taken on the responsibility of a large number of children beyond their ability to care for and support, the question of the reasons for that decision remains. My sympathy for them is limited, especially given their decision to continue to expand the family despite their existing commitments. Your desire to help your siblings should be voluntary, not the result of pressure. There is a risk that your parents may want to make you a lifetime guardian for your siblings. It is recommended that you contact a lawyer for advice on how to prevent such a scenario. You can also ask a lawyer to write a letter to your parents to make clear your boundaries regarding your financial and physical involvement in caring for the family and to stop contacting you about it. Live your life. You may have your own family and children in the future, or you may choose a different path. Either way, you have your own future to take care of. You shouldn't feel guilty for wanting to live your own life, especially given your past circumstances. Your parents made their choice, and they will have to accept all the consequences of that decision. My next story. A significant event happened in my life as an 18-year-old girl. I have 2 brothers, ages 26 and 28, both happily married. Still living with my parents, I was faced with sharing an important piece of news with my family. My boyfriend of 23 years proposed to me and we got engaged. This event was a pivotal moment as I am expecting a baby and plan to move to live with him. Wanting to share this joy with everyone at once, I chose last Saturday to gather my family for dinner. I offered my mom to help me prepare and invited both brothers, asking them to come without their families. The older brother was confused by the restrictions and asked why his wife and children couldn't attend. I explained that I wanted to spend time with my family, parents, brothers, and sisters. While preparing dinner on Friday, when everyone was gathered, I revealed the news. The moment was unexpected, as the family's reaction was far from the support I had hoped for. The brothers expressed resentment over the absence of their families, emphasizing that their wives and children were also part of the extended family. The situation escalated when the older brother stated that I lacked a sense of family connection by not considering his children as part of the family, which escalated the situation. After my decision was announced, an argument arose between my brothers and I, during which our parents tried to smooth things over. However, my elder brother accused them of being spoiled directed towards me. Feeling very tense, I decided to leave the meeting. That same evening, I texted my boyfriend asking him to pick me up the next day. The difficulty escalated when my older brother's wife expressed her displeasure to me over the phone, reproaching me for excluding her from family events. This incident triggered a wave of resentment in my family toward my brother. Despite what was happening, I did not consider my actions to be wrong. I felt that my intentions were misinterpreted by my brothers, who assumed a hidden meaning in my words. Although the situation made me look bad, my only goal was to organize a family dinner. As I experienced moments of misunderstanding, I wondered if I was right in the situation. Having a child and starting a family are significant moments in everyone's life. In this context, there are expectations of support and acceptance from loved ones, including parents and siblings. If family relationships are structured in such a way that daughters-in-law, nieces, and nephews are not perceived as full-fledged family members, the question arises as to how the future child and his or her parent will be accepted. It is important to realize that any actions or decisions that may have affected the family bond require rethinking and possible correction. This is especially true in situations where a new family member is to be welcomed. Exclusion from the family circle can lead to feelings of isolation, so it is worth starting with a sincere apology to loved ones and attempts to explain your actions and intentions. Sarcasm and criticism of other people's decisions, especially when it comes to starting a family and having children, can be taken painfully. Everyone has the right to make their own choice of path in life. The irony of the situation is that in seeking to start a family, one can unwittingly become isolated from family and friends. Family relationships, including those who have entered into them through marriage, deserve to be respected and recognized. It is important to remember that family support and understanding is a two-way process. Viewing a spouse's relatives as part of the family can promote harmony and understanding. Starting a family at a young age, announcing a pregnancy, and getting engaged at 18 are decisions that require courage and responsibility. Misunderstanding and disapproval from family members can put additional pressure. At such times, it is especially important to strive for open dialogue and understanding. It is the task of each family member to strive to understand and support each other, especially at such important times. Relationships in the family can become stronger if everyone involved strives for mutual respect and love, despite all the trials and difficulties. Next story. A few months ago, I became a mom. It was an important event for my husband and me. We are both in our 30s, and his mom is 56 years old. Since I gave birth, my attitude towards my mother-in-law has changed dramatically. Her inappropriate advice and opinions about our daughter's upbringing became a cause of my irritation. For example, she argued that I should not pick my daughter up every time she cried, arguing that the child was only manipulating me. My mother-in-law warned that such behavior would cause my daughter to become a Velcro baby that I would not be able to get rid of. Her criticism reached a climax when she accused me of ignoring my newborn daughter's needs, which irritated her. On top of that, my mother-in-law started bringing in clothes for my daughter that were clearly not meant for girls. Dark blue and dark red outfits with inscriptions like "Daddy's Little Buddy" or decorated with images of trucks became the subject of our arguments. When I expressed my displeasure, my mother-in-law wryly remarked that the little girl already didn't realize what she was wearing and wondered why I should care. She argued that I should be grateful for the free clothes, despite the fact that the choice was made deliberately and obviously did not take my wishes into account. My disagreement with my mother-in-law was exacerbated by her choice of new clothes for my daughter instead of second-hand items that would have been more acceptable to me. She has often mentioned how different our child is from me and how much he resembles her father, emphasizing the difference in our physical appearance. I have red hair and blue eyes. My daughter has strawberry blonde hair and blue eyes, while my husband has black hair and brown eyes. If our daughter begins to show displeasure due to breastfeeding hunger, my mother-in-law sometimes offers a solution by handing the baby over to my husband. She argues that at times like these, the daughter simply needs her father's attention. After my husband, realizing the need for breastfeeding, immediately returns my daughter to me for feeding, my mother-in-law became distant. She suggested that I start decanting milk to allow the father to also participate in the feeding process. Our daughter shows affection for her father, even though he cannot breastfeed her. My mother-in-law, observing my actions, such as washing my hands thoroughly before picking up my daughter, sometimes criticizes me, using language that emphasizes her disapproval of my caution. This and her other actions have caused me strong negative emotions, and I try to avoid interacting with her because of her passive-aggressive behavior. My husband is aware of our difficult interaction and my frustration. He is trying to find a balance. After all, this is his mother, and in his opinion, she is not intentionally harmful, even though her behavior irritates me. My husband has asked his mother-in-law to be more tolerant and back off in an attempt to smooth out the sharp edges in our relationship. Yesterday, a situation occurred that caused me to reach my patience limit. My husband's grandmother, who lives out of the country, sent a $50 card for Christmas, as she usually does for everyone for birthdays and holidays. My husband, at my mother-in-law's insistence, used the money to buy a play chair for our daughter, which she has been using for about a week now. During yesterday's visit, the mother-in-law expressed her pleasure at how much her daughter likes the chair, which she said her daddy bought for her. I felt irritated by her words and tried to point out that the purchase was made with money received from my grandmother and that it was, in fact, my money. However, my mother-in-law countered that since I did not work, the money was my husband's money and he had made the purchase for our daughter. This comment made me very angry, and I expressed my feelings very strongly, demanding respect from her and criticizing her behavior. The situation was extremely tense, and my response was an emotional expression about the disrespect and misunderstanding in our relationship. In this situation, acknowledging that you went too far in your response to your mother-in-law and then apologizing for using hurtful words is an important step toward restoring harmony in the family relationship. However, your decision to stay with your opinion about the situation emphasizes the importance of setting boundaries and mutual respect in your relationship with your in-laws. You need to approach this situation with finesse and strategy. First, it is important to discuss the incident with your husband in a calm and constructive manner. Express your feelings and explain why certain actions or words of his mom caused you to have such a strong reaction. Emphasize that while you appreciate his support, it is also important to you that your feelings and perceptions are heard and respected. Suggest that together you find a balance in your relationship with his mom that allows both parties to feel comfortable and respected. This may include setting clear boundaries, such as clarifying topics or issues that are best avoided in conversations, or agreeing on how and when it is best to discuss parenting issues. Also consider strategizing together about how to communicate with his mom. This can help you both present a united front and avoid situations where you feel isolated or unsupported. Discuss how best to respond to comments or advice that seem inappropriate to you to minimize conflict and miscommunication. It is important to remember that building and maintaining healthy family relationships takes time, patience, and constant work on the part of all involved. Showing empathy for each other's feelings, a willingness to communicate openly and honestly, and a willingness to compromise are key elements in successfully resolving any disagreements. Finally, it can be helpful to occasionally seek outside support or advice, such as from a family counselor. This can provide a neutral forum to discuss your feelings and concerns, as well as suggest strategies for improving interactions within the family. In this situation, you have realized that you may have crossed boundaries in your interactions with your mother-in-law and have apologized for this. However, you feel strong resentment about how she is affecting your family life and marriage and are frustrated that your husband is not advocating for your interests as vigorously as you would like. You have expressed a desire to discuss with your husband the need to set clearer boundaries with your mother-in-law to protect your marital well-being. It is important to approach the conversation with your husband in a calm and constructive manner, emphasizing that your concerns come from a concern for the health and happiness of your family. Explain that setting boundaries does not mean a lack of respect for his mom, but rather a desire to create a healthy and harmonious environment for all family members, including your child. Offering to meet with a marriage counselor can be a helpful step in helping you both learn how to effectively resolve conflict and strengthen your marriage. A counselor can offer strategies and tools to improve communication, set boundaries, and manage conflict with in-laws. Remember that maintaining healthy family relationships requires effort from everyone involved. Open and honest communication, a willingness to listen to each other, and compromise are key components of success in resolving family issues. Now I want to tell a different story. I, a 26-year-old woman, live in a small town with my father, who is 55 years old. He has the status of a disabled person, but he is able to get around on his own. It is more convenient for us because I do most of the errands. My father has 2 cars, one with a manual transmission and the other with an automatic transmission due to his mobility problems. I don't drive the manual transmission car, so I'm usually the one behind the wheel. My workplace is located 2 hours from home, so this situation is not difficult for me. I also have a 40-year-old colleague who relies on me for transportation to and from work. Her home is only 20 minutes from work, so I pick her up on the way and take her home after work. She doesn't have her own car, and public transportation services in our area leave much to be desired. I don't charge her for the rides because I have to pass by her house anyway. She always checks when I approach her house and comes out to meet me, and sometimes I park in her driveway. Recently, the manual transmission car broke down and I had to get an SUV with an automatic transmission. Driving such a large vehicle makes me uncomfortable. I have been driving a manual transmission car since my high school years. It is a very compact coupe, which allowed me to get used to driving smaller cars. This was my first experience driving another car. My regular car is an import coupe with right-hand drive, which makes my perception distorted when I get behind the wheel of a standard car. The one time she asked me to pull into her driveway in a larger vehicle, I made the mistake of hooking 2 wheels on the lawn. Being used to the location on the other side, and given that the automatic transmission car was wider than I was used to and her driveway was very narrow, I was out of position. I'm not used to driving such large cars, which led to chaos. Her reaction was instant and angry when she saw the tire tracks on her lawn. She exclaimed that if I couldn't pull into the driveway carefully without harming my lawn, I should lose my license. I did my best to explain that I could not use my vehicle since it was broken. She suggested that in that case, I should ask my father to drive me to work. This suggestion irritated me because it seemed completely unreasonable. First of all, my father is a man with a disability. Secondly, he would hardly like the idea of spending 4 hours driving just to get me to work. As a result, the next day, I informed her that I would no longer be able to drive her. I still have to continue driving, though, because a part broke in the manual transmission car, requiring an order from overseas, which takes time. I recognize that my response may have seemed overly harsh, but my coworker's comment deeply hurt me. I also don't want to find myself in a situation where I will be yelled at again because of a driving error. Refusing to give my coworker a ride is not a loss to me, and I believe she should have shown more appreciation. Instead, she got angry and called me a bad word, and our other coworker called me an idiot for refusing to help when a ride was especially needed. I'm wondering if my behavior was truly unreasonable. The coworker is known for her temper, so perhaps she didn't mean all of what she said. Nevertheless, her words left a grudge. When someone talks about other people's bad temper and justifies it, it is always irritating. The reminder that every adult should be able to control themselves seems especially appropriate. Resentment for leaving footprints on a lawn is understandable, but instead of yelling and insults, you could have done something else. For example, suggesting that next time you go out on the road to avoid similar situations, especially when a big favor is being done. It is important to appreciate such gestures rather than responding with ingratitude. There is a saying that emphasizes the unacceptability of ingratitude. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Prolonged justification of a colleague's unpleasant behavior by others does not make her behavior any less toxic. At age 40, it's past time to learn to control her temper and understand the consequences of her actions. If she is incapable of doing so, perhaps the problem is herself. You are not responsible for providing transportation to work for your colleague. Discontinuing rides is a reasonable solution in this situation. If someone complains about your decision, suggest that they take over the task. This will solve the problem and show why others are hesitant to take on that responsibility because of a coworker's toxic behavior. It's important to protect your boundaries and not allow yourself to be manipulated. The lesson from this situation is valuable.